evening, UK, and good afternoon in New York. Welcome to Dave Spathic's program of discussions on clowns, clowning and circus. And this is number 6 in a series of discussions that we've been having on Wednesday and Sundays. A request, and times are tough, but if you could make a donation, Dave's putting a huge amount of work into making these events happen, and sort of money is much appreciated, and there's links to the payment portal later, also on the zoological website. So we have 3 audiences. We have our Zoom audience and people on the Zoom panel. If you've got any questions, please put them in the chat box and we'll see if we can talk about those at some point. There's our audience out there listening right now. It's been live streamed, and for the people who can't stay the whole of the hour, then you can catch up on YouTube later. So let's get started. I'm really, really excited and pleased to welcome Hilary Chaplin. And so Hilary, welcome, good evening.
Thank you.
Hello. Hilary, you've been creating solo and ensemble work for the past 40 years. You were originally a cast member for Bill Irwin's Largely New York, yeah, in Broadway. You've been a children's doctor, a nurse nice, yes, a clown doctor, in the Big Apple Circus Hospital program. Okay. You've been touring since 2005, your internationally award-winning show, A Life in Her Day, which is directed by Avner Eisenberg, and done a huge amount of variety shows worldwide with our short comic numbers. And in 2018, you created a show in collaboration with other artists called, and it was right, The Last Rat, and correct me if I'm wrong, of Theresienstadt.
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 I don't even say it very well.
Thank you. And it won 4 top awards. Fantastic. And now you've been performing and teaching worldwide, haven't you? And currently developing a show called Bite Me. What a title. With C.B. Goodman and Aitor Basauri. So welcome.
Yeah.
I love the line on your website, uncovering the humor in everyday life. And this kind of very much resonates with my work and probably many people in the world right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, Charlie Chaplin on Laughter, sort of paraphrase, he said,
you froze.
Very well.
Oh, sorry, what did he say? Because you froze for a second for me.
You must be able to take your pain and play with it.
Ah, yes.
And I think clowns do a great job of playing with pain. And like I said, you've been creating shows for 40 years. So can we kind of start at the beginnings, Hilary? Who inspired you when you were young? Did you perform as a child?
I did perform as a child. I performed in the school plays and decided at about age 10 that I was going to be an actress.
Wow.
And the first show that I did outside of a school play was in the town of Manchester, New Hampshire. Yeah. There was a couple who were doing this kind of avant-garde, crazy abstract theater, and they created a show about the 3 Little Mermaids taken from Hans Christian Andersen's story, The Little Mermaid. Yeah. And I got the role as the Little Mermaid, as the 3rd Little Mermaid, and we were speaking in this beautiful prose. My mother said it sounded like I knew what I was saying, so I assume I did. And that was my first introduction to theater outside of school plays and little pageantry things. And we were rocks, and we were the water, and we had these gauzy costumes, and it was physical theater.
Wow.
And so I've always pulled towards physical theater and popular theater. When I was in high school, I took a mime class, and that teacher sent me to study with Tony Montanaro, who was one of my mentors. And his idea of mime is very open sense of what mime is. Mime is a physical language that doesn't that includes everything, really. It
Mm.
includes the voice, it includes story, music, anything, dance. And so that was my early introduction to theater, besides, the doing musicals in high school. And but my idea really was to be a serious actress. I really didn't have a lot of interest in being a clown, because to me, clown was circus. Clowns were, had wigs and big makeup and floppy shoes. And that's the only thing I knew of as clowns, until I went to Paris and studied during college, and I was taking mime. I took class with these two women, Pinoc and Marteau.
Right.
And they were doing physical theater. They were doing physical visual theater and using a lot of character and mime. And I loved playing characters and creating bizarre characters, old people, crazy people. And I started to understand that there was a lot more beyond legitimate theater. And then I spent a lot of time up at the Celebration Barn with Tony. And but still, I moved to New York with the idea that I was going to be an actress.
You still hung on to that.
I hung on to it. I really hung on to it. And I worked with Bill Irwin in largely New York. I didn't do the Broadway show. I did the earlier workshop version of it. I worked with, when I was in Boston, I was working as a clown. I was working with a partner.
What were you doing in Boston as a clown?
I had a partner, Michael Zerfy, and we did clown mime stories, but he was the clown, and I just did it because I wanted to work with Michael. And he'd say, "Oh, you don't really care about this." And I'd say, "Well, no, I don't really, but I want to work with you." And then another friend of mine, Libby Marcus, invited me to be a clown in her show, which was a circus kind of show. And so I did it. And then I moved to New York and I started working with the clown carry unit of the Big Apple Circus. And so I was a clown and I was getting gigs and I was doing birthday parties. I had a really sweet little show, but I was not a clown.
You were still in denial. How long did this denial last, Hilary?
Well, in the mid-90s, I was working on a show about a woman. I wanted it to be kind of a Whoopi Goldberg, a series of characters, Lily Tomlin, Whoopi Goldberg. And so my teacher said, the person I was working with said, write what you know. So I did a funny little piece about a birthday party. I did a piece about a child at the Hole in the Wall gang camp where I had been a clown for the Big Apple Circus. And he was a very ill child, and about an interaction that I had with him. I did stories about doing bar mitzvahs. And finally, the show ended up being called A Life in Her Day, but it was about an actress who moves to New York to be an actress, ends up working as a clown. And by the end, she finally accepts herself as a clown.
Wow. That's
and everybody said to me, everybody said, "Hilary, it's great, but why don't you just do a clown show?" And I said, "Because I'm not a clown."
Well, that's interesting, because we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, that the idea that you have to be a clown to clown. And I completed a PhD, or practices research PhD, a few years ago, and refuted this, that you don't, once you are clowning, at that moment you're a clown, but you can slot clowning into all sorts of performances, into serious work, but the clown in circus, but there's the clown appearing in theatre, can be in character, can be yourself just now just doing clowning. So it's interesting that that we've got to maybe stop talking about the clown as just a one entity, and talk about it as an art form that can be used in many styles of theatre.
I absolutely agree with you. And that's when I finally started to understand that what I was already doing was clown. Completely changed, opened my head up about it, because I saw Bill Irwin and Avner and Bob Berkey and all these wonderful male clowns with their bowler hats and their suspenders, and Gardy Hooter. I saw Gardy in 1987. But I looked at all these people and I said, yeah, but that's not me. And so
Yeah,
I thought, I don't fit into the image of what a clown is.
exactly.
And then I was doing a piece. I had a serious monologue from Shakespeare, Portia from Julius Caesar. And I was going to these auditions in New York, these group things where you meet managers and agents. And I thought, I've got to do something that really shows them what I can do. And so I threw in a bunch of accidents that I had been using for some other funny stuff. And I do the monologue of Portia, and at the top of the piece, where I'm a little overdressed for Portia with pearls in my hair up and a sparkly dress, and I start the monologue and the heel on my shoe breaks,
Oh,
but I have to keep going. And somebody hands me a roll of tape and I have trouble with the tape and I finally get it taped up and I keep going, but then it breaks again and my pearls break and they give me glue and I can't fix my shoe and I'm fixing the shoe with glue and I'm getting high and I pull my hair out and I've stuck to my clothes, but I finished the monologue.
wow.
I finally understood
Yeah.
that's who I am as a clown.
You're a clown.
Woman who wants to be the grown-up woman who wants to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
I will persevere to do what I've set out to do. And in it, I have all kinds of problems. And I look like an idiot. And I finally understood that that's my personal idiocy.
Yeah.
That is what's laughable about me. You know, in workshops, people will always talk about how you have to understand who you are as a person in order to understand who you can be as a clown and to discover it. And I thought, well, I was born with myself. I know me.
Mm. I think that's. I think we aren't just one me, are we? Though we are
Not at all.
an amalgamation of me's that is forever becoming something else. Me today isn't me yesterday, or nuanced differently. Even probably for meeting you, I'll be different. So it's always that shift, isn't there? And this idea that we can just be find your clown, or I find that slightly concerning that the clown is an art form that you know when you're doing it, don't you? You know, and then it's also a set of skills that you have to learn. So it's a kind of merging of an art form with the skills, so you know and what you're doing. I've just had a message from Dave that some people came have coming to watch. Welcome. This is Hilary Chaplin. Lost.
Oh. Well, Maggie is gone, but I see me. I don't know if I'm still, it's recording. Well, I will just respond to what I was going to say to Maggie, although she may miss it. The idea that we have the clown is ourselves, and there are so many different facets to ourselves. And a lot of people have one character who is their clown, but I don't work that way. As Maggie was saying, because we have so many different parts of ourselves, I have a lot of different characters that I play, or a lot of different facets of myself go into different characters depending on what I'm doing. This is really strange to be just talking.
I'm back.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, that was a clown moment, wasn't it?
I tried to keep going because it was recording. I was responding to what you said about having all these facets of ourselves, and I'm not a single clown character, but I think I bring clown into all of the work that I do. It's so influenced by the training and the time on stage and the time improvising that I've had.
I was going to ask, I mean, you've talked about a lot of mentors that you had along the way. And so those people have obviously influenced you and they probably guided you. Were you influenced by any, what I call TV clowns or film clowns that you saw when you were growing up?
Absolutely.
And
I would say,
would you actually name names?
I would, for sure, because I hope everybody watches these. Lucille Ball, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I watched Lucy in the Carol Burnett show as a kid, Mary Tyler Moore on the Dick Van Dyke Show, as well as Dick Van Dyke and Rose Marie, Phyllis Diller. getting older, you know, people, the Laugh-In,
Mm-hmm.
Goldie Hawn,
Yeah,
and
yeah. All
what was her name?
what a
Can't
um
name.
Bette Midler.
Bette Midler, some. I wasn't as much of a Bette Midler fan, but Gilda Radner,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Tomlin. Yeah, but as a kid, I would say it was Lucille Ball,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Carol Burnett, and probably the Three Stooges. I watched a lot of the Three Stooges as a kid.
Yeah, I think it does. I think what you watch, you are influenced by what you watch, aren't you? And that's inevitable, isn't it? That
Yeah.
it's going to rub off on you in some shape or form. I
Oh.
certainly think your instance of being Little Mermaid and being introduced to physical theatre probably had a huge, long-lasting, clearly a long-lasting effect on your work.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I mean, the range of clown and clowning is immense. And I just want to sort of go back to something you said, you touched on earlier. So the therapeutic qualities of clowning and laughter are very much appreciated in hospitals and various war-torn areas of the world. In fact, there's a special program on Sunday. One of Dave Spathiki's events is going to be on mental health and clowning, so tune in for that on Sunday. But on last Wednesday, on the Clown Power panel, Don Len, the director of the Madrid Circus, talked about how Clowns Without Borders are bringing hope and joy to people in Syria. So your time as a clown doctor, as Nurse Nice, what a fantastic name. How have you continued with this, you know, the idea of this therapeutic? How has that impacted on your work, and perhaps a little window into Nurse Nice?
Mm-hmm. Well, a little window into Nurse Nice. I started out as a doctor selling a trash can, and then I was asked to do a nurse for an event, a special event at the circus. So I created Nurse Nice, and I realized she was just so perfect for me because I know in the panel, in the very first panel, you're talking about how a lot of teachers say that clowns are like children, and that clowns aren't sexual. And I fortunately never had a teacher really press that on me, but rather the clown really is who you are. And for me to be called Nurse Nice is just perfect because sometimes I'm not so nice. And I find a lot of joy and fun in being kind of the nasty one. And I have to say David Schreiner was very helpful with pushing me towards that a little bit as well, as you can imagine. So Nurse Nice is a bit bossy. She thinks she always knows what she's talking about, but can easily be made a fool of. I find what's really fun in the hospital work is when you're working really well with a partner, that the balance of power, the status goes back and forth, and that's where the fun is, both between the partner and with the child or the family. I have not worked now in the hospital for about 7 years. I stopped when I was touring a lot, but I've stayed part of the family, and I go to the conferences, and I worked with Magdalena, I just forgot her name, from Scotland. She's Austrian, but she's in Scotland, who's done a lot of work with people with dementia and elderly people. And I'm finding that work is really intriguing. And I may start doing some of that with partners that I have who now live in Texas and with some Boston people. But it's really interesting work because it's people with dementia, I think, are often dismissed as not having any kind of grip on reality, not being part of what's going on in the present, and they're not dealt with in a way often. And I'm not really part of this world, but not dealt with in a way that's where they're able to really communicate at their level. And the clowns come in and make a very personal relationship with where that person is right now in a way that most of the people around them don't. And the stories I hear about that kind of work is really impactful for the person with dementia, for their caretakers, for their families. So this I'm finding really
Yeah,
interesting.
that's really, I'm sure people listening in will be really interested to hear that,
Shamburger,
and maybe take it a bit further.
Magdalena Shamburger.
Shamburger, okay, I've written that down. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Also, right now in the hospital clown world, because people can't go to the hospitals and the homes, people are doing amazing work with doing one-on-one Zooms or group Zooms with their partner and a child in the hospital. They're making videos and they're being shown on closed circuit TVs in the hospitals. So this quarantine is bringing amazing.
It's interesting, isn't it? How people have got very creative, haven't they? And there's, I've always thought there's a problem. Quite often clowns can find solutions, not necessarily always the right solution, but that creative thinking, isn't it? You know, how can we get out of this hole, pal?
That's true. That's true.
One of the things when we're talking with other panelists that came up was this idea, and it's interesting because you talked about, don't want to be a clown, I wanted to be a serious actress, I wanted to be serious, oh, I'm a clown. Oh, well. But one of the things that I resonated with me was I just felt this huge sense of liberation, of kind of ability, a sort of moment of transgression, of crossing the boundaries, being able to say things that, you know, perhaps I couldn't or hadn't said for whatever reason. So how was it for you? Also, maybe looking at the production of A Life in Her Day, did the clown or clowning give you an opportunity to do this? Tell about the roots of this show. You've touched on it already, but and I love this. I think someone wrote it was an amalgam of Lucille Ball and Charlie Chaplin, two absolute icons of comedy and clowning. So maybe what about the influences of Ball and Chaplin on you, and in relation to this production, A Day in Her Life?
Mm-hmm. A Life in Her Day.
A Life in Her, yes.
Actually, it grew out of the show that was about being a clown into, I finally said, okay, and threw most of what I had done away and started again and kept a few things. And I was working with Avner in a workshop, and he gives assignments for us to all go off and work on and come back. And one of them was a morning routine. And so I put a mattress up against the wall, and it was like you had a bird's eye view looking down at the bed. And I started playing with what kind of gags I could do with that kind of an illusion. And so the show started as kind of a series of gags. But as it went, it became about a woman who lives alone in her apartment, in her home, and she creates her day out of everyday objects that she has around her. Very simple objects, a roll of paper towels, which was also an assignment from Avner in class. Take a roll of paper towels. What can you create and do with it where it becomes something with an audience participation? And so in my show, I have all kinds of things that I do with a roll of paper towels. My lamp becomes a man. I mean, essentially, it's a very simple story about a woman who wakes up, she has breakfast, she finds a ring in her box of Lucky Charms, she gives it to somebody in the audience to put on her finger, she gets ready for a wedding by making a dress out of her lampshade and a veil out of the paper towel. She goes back to the man and realizes he's already taken. I try to always find somebody who's sitting with someone, and even if they're not actually with them, I assume they are. And so I'm left alone again, but I notice my lamp has a round head, and I proceed to make it into a man. We get married, we go on a honeymoon, I have a baby, I'm back home, I make house, and it all falls apart and I go back to sleep. And it's a cycle of a lifetime in a day, in an hour. Yeah. And it's not really about a woman who's looking for a husband. it's not about a woman who's looking to get married. It's about a woman who uses what she has to create a life for that day. And I like the, I hope the audience goes away thinking, I wonder what she'll do the next day.
It's really rather poignant, isn't it?
I-
You think, I mean, I'm thinking now that people on their own and how you manage time on your own and how you create maybe an imaginary friends. It's really inspirational, isn't it? I think, but ultimately there's a lot of pathos there, isn't there? And as well as a lot of humor. I think that's
there is. I think, and depending on the audience member, they see it a different way. You know, some people are really sad at the end, think, oh, she's so lonely, she's all alone. And in my point of view, it's no, she has everything she needs. Because it's up to her to create her own life however she wants to.
I love this. I love the devising processes that came out of a class and became this amazing show. Your work with Avner and his direction of this production. You've done a lot of, you've undertook a lot of training with Philippe Gaulier, maybe, and who else? And De Castro.
No, I studied with Philippe for 2 weeks back in 1996. Okay. And it's funny, somebody on, I don't remember who it was, on one of the other panels was saying that somebody asked them to teach. Was it you right after? And they said, no, I can't teach. I don't know what I'm doing. No. That happened to me in 96 after I studied with Gaulier. Somebody said, oh, you should teach at NYU. I'm like, oh God, no, I don't know what I'm doing. And I got the job. But I've studied with De Castro. Yeah. I've studied with Aitor Basauri from Spy Monkey most recently, and now we're collaborating on a project.
That's fantastic.
Studied with Avner's wife Julie as well.
Yeah.
I'm a workshop junkie.
Yeah, but it's all helpful, isn't it? You always take gems or learn things from whatever new experiences we do. Yeah. You've belonged to a clown ensemble from 1996 and taught worldwide. So I'd like to touch on your collaboration with David, is it David Engel, and your show El Magnifico?
Yeah.
So perhaps talk us through, because you had made some decisions, didn't you, what you were going to include in a adult show and then the children's show. Can we talk about that? You are this funny, very funny, smart, glamorous, and very pregnant magician's assistant, wife, mistress, with David Engel, who's this actor clown and a bubbling magician. So talk us a little bit about the decisions around. I mean, I've only had a chance to watch online, so I love it. Tell me about that.
Sadly, we're not performing that at all anymore. And it was very short-lived, and I really loved it. We were, David was one of my partners in the hospital, and we just worked really well together. And he did a lot of magic, and he had this crazy, bumbling, very full of himself magician. And we decided we would do a show together to go to a clown festival in China. It was a huge clown festival in 2008 with a lot of more Ringling type clowns, which David and I, neither of us were. So we put together the show where I was not pregnant in that version. I was just his assistant. I was the smart one. He was the idiot. And when we got back, we thought, God, we really want to keep doing this, but how could we do it for adults? And I was in Brazil at a clown festival, women's clown festival in Rio. Esse Monte de Payasas, I can't remember the name right now, but it was Women's Clown Festival with As Marias de Graças in Rio. And there was a woman juggler with a partner who was pregnant. And she was, bending down to pick up the clubs. And I thought, oh, that's it. She should be pregnant, 9 months pregnant.
Yeah, it so works, isn't it?
So I'm constantly sneaking food and he's constantly pointing at my belly saying, "That's my baby." And I keep looking at men in the audience going, "You, that's your baby."
It's fantastic, Hilary, and you use this. You use exaggeration, which is one of the comedian's best friends, isn't it?
Oh,
This
yeah.
extended, exaggerated pausing, and,
Oh,
and
oh,
there's this beautiful moment when is he a rat, some sort of furry creature? Is he?
it's
And he,
it's one of those little magician's raccoons.
oh, and he kind of ends up under your skirt with
Yes.
this very short gold lame
Mhm.
tight dress right between your thighs, and there's a very long extended pause, and I was kind of reminded Lucille Ball. So Lucille Ball, on her second child, they wrote into the script that she was going to it was in the script, but there was demands by the CBS insisting that pregnant women couldn't be shown on television, and they word pregnant couldn't even be spoken on air at the time, and they had to kind of work with religious figures to make it okay on the storyline. And I thought, have we come a long way from Lucille, who's really quite radical, wasn't it? Doing her pregnancy on TV in a time where mustn't say the word, and then there's you doing this wonderfully kind of sexualized, naughty magician's assistant. Chapeau. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to say that long pause was really scary. And Bob Berkey directed us. We spent a few days working with Bob, and he said, "No, hold it.
Yep.
Hold it longer. Hold it longer." And it is one of the most delicious moments.
It is.
Ever.
If you ever wanted to teach the long pause, that's the fabulous why it's important to have a long pause, and when you think you need to stop, keep going.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend people watch that. I mean, just watch it anyway. It's fabulous. I'm sorry, not doing it anymore.
Oh, me
But
too.
you are developing a new show, aren't you, called Bite Me?
That's right.
And this is looking at Snow White, and so I was going to ask you a little bit about feminism, and I kind of love the idea that it revisits Snow White. I mean, I am a feminist, although I admit there's many different ways of being a feminist. But from a theatrical or a theatre maker, did you look at it? Are you looking at it from a feminist perspective to retell it with a different version? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We are telling it from the point of view of two women who are getting older and never be playing Snow White, would never be playing the prince or the hunter. We're using magic and music and songs and dancing and green screen and Barbie and Ken dolls with toy theater with the green screen, and we're playing men, we're playing women, and we are doing scenes from the fairy tale itself, and we're doing scenes that are about us, about our relationship, about who we are in the world. And we're really trying to tear it open a bit and take it apart and say that women are not only, women aren't princesses, but that women have all of the qualities that we have as people, and that the princesses have all the qualities that we have. And we're trying to give Snow White more of a choice. And we're really poking fun at the fairy tale aspects of the story to break them apart and understand that they are fairy tales and that they are not truth.
I think that's really wonderful, because we have to kind of rewrite and revision fairy tales, don't we? I created a clown called Seducer Medusa, and it was undoing the myth of Medusa, that she was a dangerous woman and she was going to kill you. Sort of this idea that no, she's just making you laugh. So I like this idea of changing the story, because as a little girl I was brought up on so many of these stories where the ingenue and the prince saves, and the wicked stepmothers and all this. And I think it's wonderful that you're giving a different perspective, because one of the things we were talking about was aging, how we handle aging as women. I mean, the film industry doesn't, sort of the whole Hollywood industry sometimes have a little bit of a problem with older women, but I think it's wonderful that on stage you're looking at topics where we can maybe discuss this and celebrate.
Yeah. Do you know in the in most tellings of Snow White, the prince who has seen her once is the savior. He kisses her and then takes her off with him. I mean, she has no choice. She has no say in it. So we don't know how we'll end it yet, but it won't end that way.
It's really exciting, isn't it? And you're really doing some boundary crossing, aren't you? And using all the available skills, the puppetry, the gender bending. We've had a discussion on gender in the a couple of the forums on sort of, let's take it, gender as a construct anyway, and this idea once that androgyny allowed people to do what they like. But for me, as a woman who clowns, I always felt it was more of an opportunity to break societal rules, to not be socialized anymore. It was permission to transgress from social norms. And there are other art forms that also allow for this, but for a woman, and for the amount of women that are now turning to clowning, it's quite extraordinary. You also teach. How do you find the difference of approaches that women have, maybe in clown classes or not?
Well, before I address that, I just want to say that the other thing in Bite Me that's really exciting to me is that my two partners, in creating it, Aitor Basauri and CB Goodman, they are they're pushing me beyond my comfort zone.
Okay.
In ways that are really exciting for me, because I feel as though I've done a lot of different kinds of work over the years, but as far as dealing with sexuality and well, as far as dealing with sexuality in my work, I've always played things very safely and kind of taken care of the audience. And we're taking things in very funny ways beyond my normal comfort zone and beyond my boundaries. And
can you give an example?
Or
do you not want to spoil it?
I think because we're so removed from it right now, it's we were supposed to be working on it this month. We were planning to open in Austin, and we hadn't worked together since last summer. We were supposed to have a couple of sessions this winter, and I think I'm going to hold back from saying that, but just it's boundary pushing, both for audiences and ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? How far you can push things, and how far, and in getting, and I guess the phrase is, and getting away with it, or just not really. I also, when I'm looking at an audience, I see clowns in front of me. That's very interesting. Does that happen? I see the audience suddenly, I feel like they're mirroring. It's very liberating. Anyway, that's
I love watching the audience's reactions.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because you as a clown, you have to watch. You watching. There's no wall. You're looking at them and looking into their eyes and their souls.
Working with them. Now, one of the things that I've loved about doing the clown work is that because of the work and because of this experience with CB and Aitor, I find, yes, I'm so much freer as a human being, because I just don't care anymore. Partly getting older, I don't care. And partly playing with taboo playing with what's socially acceptable and not. As clowns, we're allowed to go into those places and normalize them in a sense, because they're things that we all feel and we all think about, and we're told we're not supposed to.
Yeah, and it's playing with stereotypes, isn't it? You know, sort of undoing stereotypes that at this age you're this and you're supposed to behave like that. And I do think age plays a huge role for some women on like that line, I don't care anymore.
Right.
I think
that's my silvery gray hair growing in, and the brand. I'm gray.
It's
I'm gray. I'm
great.
silver.
I'm still, yeah.
It just happened this.
It's all there somewhere.
Yeah,
Under the armpits mainly.
I was so worried that for my work I couldn't be gray or silver, and I in fact think it's going to bring a really interesting quality to some of the work that I have been doing.
A new phase.
No, yeah,
and a new commentary, and something you've got something to say about that, haven't you?
Right.
As a woman, this is how it is.
Yep. Yeah.
Get used to it.
This is who I am. You know, I had a teacher at one point who didn't want me to, who wanted me to make myself look unattractive to be funny.
Oh, no.
You know what? I'm going to try these pieces looking as attractive as I can, because I think a woman who looks beautiful should be able to be just as funny as a woman who looks funny.
Yeah, you know, see, Aristotle, laughter is ugly. You know, when we're laughing, we're not. So, but I think, and again, the argument that you have to be ugly to be funny, it's just rubbish. It just doesn't hold water. It's and I think one of the things in my thesis I talked about the construct of femininity, and that how you play, you know, femininity, gorgeous, but you can still clown within that. You don't have to do, you know, you can still clown within whatever costuming or look that you choose. And I think that's important. I think it's a mistake to say you need to not look attractive. And I think that some people say you should emphasize certain things of your body. So if you've got a big bum, make that bigger, or breasts that are bigger. And I think that's also quite problematic for some women, because, you know, we're already being judged anyway. As soon as we walk on stage, where people are judging, I think they're probably judging everybody now. But it's there's challenges around that, and I think the essential skills of, you know, what is it to be a clown? What do you have to do? What are the skills, and what's the art form? What's the thinking behind it? So yeah, I'm rambling a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes, it definitely makes sense. And I will say that I love making myself look ugly or funny. I love creating characters like that. And I think earlier on in my work and in my career, it allowed me a kind of freedom. You know, in A Life in Her Day, I used to have a fat body, and it gave me a kind of freedom because I couldn't be judged on what my own body really looked like, because I put on a fat suit.
Yeah.
So it gave me a kind of freedom, because I was very self-conscious on stage as a younger performer.
Yeah.
And I think it helped me work through that. And I hope I care less. I think I care less.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because as teachers of clown, how we help mentor and support young people who have those worries. And I think the earlier you can clown, it holds you in good stead for whatever, wherever you choose to perform, whether that's the circus, the theatre, the street, in business, whatever. It's such a fantastic skill to have. I've got a question coming.
Raise you up.
Elaine May, silly and sophisticated Catherine Hepburn with Cary Grant or Spencer Tracy was gorgeous and very clowny traits. I think, you know, if we look at the film industry now, in film, our clowns, I'm trying to the name now, I've just got a bit of a perimenopausal moment.
Oh, I'm terrible. But what's her name? The heavy actress who's so funny. Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock.
Yes, she's the one. Sandra Bullock.
Beautiful. And
Fantastic clown.
Great,
great, isn't she? Yeah. So
yeah.
we're still doing it. Going back to your classically trained series, which you talked about earlier, I thought this divine idea. It's just wonderful. Ivana, is it Cullinan, New York Theatre? She was reviewing you, and in her classically trained series, in which you explore the vagaries of performing, Cullinan says, Chaplin's characters, these are unstoppable women. The simplest of mishaps that from sheer annoyance value could send anyone's day out of the window or overcome with, and I haven't printed off the last word. That's such a clown. But it's one of these unstoppable women, you know, taking different, this is the classical musician, isn't it? And then the Shakespearean character, right, and upending them. I think it's divine that you're taking these women and transforming them and making us laugh.
Well, the latest one, actually, it's funny, you know, I've never had a child and never dealt with pregnancy, but I've done numerous characters since The Magician's Wife, who are in a life in her day, the paper towels becomes a baby and I give birth. And my latest classically trained is an opera singer, and she's singing the Queen of the Night. I'm lip syncing because unfortunately I don't have that kind of a voice, but she's 9 months pregnant. And she insists on going on anyway. And then she starts to go into labor and her water breaks and she gives birth.
Yeah.
All in a 3 minute and 37 second song. Wow. So
that's where your title Queen comes from.
Yeah, maybe.
I love it.
It's funny. I've played a number of goddesses and queens, and so people, I think I come off as a high status person with a lot of confidence. And that is the persona that you see. Yeah. There's a lot under that isn't that. Yeah. But I get that a lot. I'm like a queen. And so I decided to own it. I'm a queen.
I'm a queen. So there. Have we got any questions? We're coming into our kind of last 10 minutes or so. Do our panelists listening in have any questions they'd like to put to Hilary Chaplin? Fantastic insight into her career, which has been put on hold slightly because of COVID. How are you managing clown? Are you going back visiting? Are you creating? Is it the ideas passing through your head as
I'm glad you asked that, because I've been thinking about that and I have not been feeling very creative. But I'll say this, after 9/11, I was in New York, and after that day, a lot of artists started creating all kinds of performance around the tragedy of 9/11.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh God, and here I am, a clown. I have nothing important to say.
Wow.
And that lasted about a week. And then I realized I'm in the best position I could be in, because I can now go out and bring joy back into people's lives. And it was a really remarkable turnaround in my thinking. And I'm glad it only took a week. Right now, I really want to make Michael Troutman, who some of you may know, has his picture on Facebook has a big smile on his mask. And I really want to make face masks with big smiles, because I feel like I'm struggling with creativity right now and with what to do. Yeah. And I think we all have to give ourselves a little bit of a break here and not feel like we have to be producing. I'm giving myself a break, and when the time is right, it will come. But it's been a couple of hard years in my life, family-wise. And as a clown, I feel like as a comic performer, I feel like I've lost my sense of humor in some ways, and it's starting to come back. It's starting to come back.
It goes back to that line, though, doesn't it? The line I said at the beginning about Chaplin taking your pain and playing with it. I
Mhm.
think, and the clown, that's and not necessarily the raison d'etre. When we talked about like scary clowns and all sorts of different styles of clowns, and as a performer and a theatre maker, I've always felt that it is about the joy, isn't it? How we can transform as
Mhm.
clown artists, and we've got that skill to do that. And the clown for me always ends up the person that's left standing when the whole
Yeah.
distraction. There's wonderful black and white film, black and white. The clown, sorry, his name, very famous, Charlie Chaplin time. Jeeps, physical panel, come on, help.
One of the silent.
Yes, silent movies.
Buster Keaton.
House falls down. He stood in the doorway. And
Buster Keaton.
Buster Keaton, thank you. And the house falls down and he's left standing there. And I just feel that's the epitome of clown, that, we get like a weasel doll come up and bounce. And interesting that you talked about 9/11 and how we come out of this using comedy. It's a catalyst. It's for change. Doctors, nurses, people, when they're having a hard time, they turn to humor. And there's been so much humor on the internet, and turning to it, aren't they, to cheer themselves up and get through the ups and downs.
I was talking about it a little earlier today that comedy is somebody else's tragedy.
Yes.
And the other thing they say, comedy is tragedy plus time. And I think when I can allow myself to be laughed at for the things that I take so seriously in my life, other people laugh because they recognize it.
Yeah.
And empathize. And I feel like it's a gift that I allow people to laugh at my pain.
Yeah. And I also think to laugh at yourself. Like, I know that if anything goes wrong, I don't think, I just say quietly to myself, clown, and that's it. And we've got a question, Donald Len, contemporary women clown heroes. I think we talked about some of those earlier, didn't we?
I would absolutely agree with Elaine May. I see that on here, Elaine May, and she is still alive. Oh, that's such a great question, Donald. And
we were talking to Sue Broadway and DeCastro and Nola Ray. These are
actually they are my clown, my models. You named them, Nola and DeCastro, and there are so many South American clowns, Brazilian clowns that are so wonderful that most of us in Europe and the United States don't have the opportunity to meet.
Yeah. Question Sue Broadway asking, Hilary, talking about collaborators a lot, but can you talk about collaboration in a time of social distancing? You were saying that we were kind of taking a step back. So at some point, you think you'll do something online?
I hope so. Hi, Sue. It's been a long time. I think for me personally, I've been so involved in taking care of things that are going on in my own life that I haven't stepped into that yet. But, we were talking about working with people with dementia, and my, in Dallas, Texas, Tiffany Riley and I have been having some conversation about how to take that forward. And hopefully we'll talk about how to do it with Zoom or somehow collaboratively online. Right now, my partner CB is in Austin and I'm here, and we're at a point now where we'll start to have some conversations about moving the piece forward, Bite Me, and we can do some rehearsals online. But I don't know. I feel too is that we really need to be in the room together.
Yeah.
We're going to have to.
Have you got, we don't know when it's all going to be, we're all going to be open to go out and play, do we? Was the tour over the States or beyond? Europe too?
Our plan right now is to open it in Austin still, and then hopefully take it to Edinburgh and go from there. Spy Monkey is hopefully going to be our team, our producing team. So we hope to take it to the UK.
Great.
Right now, it's hard to know if how much touring we'll be doing anywhere. My other show, The Last Rat of Theresienstadt, you know, we've performed it about 15 times, and now don't know what'll happen.
Wow, it's a very uncertain time, isn't it? Sue Broadway, common theme with older women is caring. Yes.
Oh. Sorry, I see Magdalena Shamburger just said, lovely to hear you speak for.
Oh, yes.
Magdalena, I was talking about you a little bit earlier, and the work that you've been doing with people with dementia. So kudos to you.
That's so exciting. I'm interested in what's happening there. Any more questions from the panel? No. So is there anything else you'd like to sort of leave us with at all, Hilary, before we close? Any kind of sort of thoughts in the here and now?
Yeah, I was thinking earlier about our discussion on who you are as a clown and people creating their clown character. And one of the most important things that happened to me was, as far as who I am as a clown and what it means to be a clown, was that transition into understanding that Shakespeare piece was me as a clown. And I encourage people, I hope there are younger people listening to these panels, because there've been such great conversations, and I look forward to seeing them on these panels. But the idea that you are who you are, and that we all have to look to the greats and to other people to see what clown is and what's possible in the world of clown. But I used to try to fit myself into an image of what I thought clown was. And I didn't find that satisfying. I have to go with what my gut is telling me to do and with who I am.
Yeah, I agree. I've done work with characters that aren't essentially funny, but clowning within a very serious character. So it's a skill, and it's a way of thinking and a way of being that it's just different from just acting a role. It's sort of being it. I think that's very special. And very transformative, and I think we're very privileged, and I'm very privileged to talk to you, Hilary. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on your life. I'm so glad this one day you went, yes, I am a clown. And you brought a lot of joy to a lot of people. There is one more question with 1 minute to go. Just for the 1 minute, please leave a donation if you've loved this talk. Dave and the team have been creating these for people to tune in, listen and learn. Look for the donation button and put some money in the pot for the team. That's fantastic. Oh, yes, last minute. Have you ever created a work around a trauma? That was personal. Sorry for last minuteness.
That's Chloe, that's such a great question. And I would have to say no. Specifically, no. I think my work is created around many small traumas in my life, because I think our lives are constantly full of small traumas, and I make the small traumas into great traumas. But as far as personal, real traumas, I have not.
Thank you, Hilary. So that's all from New York. And thanks, and thank you very much to all the people that tuned in to Zoom. Thank you for all people listening out on YouTube. This is going to be made available by Dave Spathicki and the team for you to listen at your leisure. There's a session set up for Sunday that's on looking at mental health and clowning. So if you're interested in that, please Zoom in, listen in, let Dave know that you're interested. So from me, Maggie Irving in sunny Devon, the UK, it's goodbye, and it's goodbye from Hilary.
Bye from me, Hilary, here in sunny Brooklyn.
And we hope to see you on stage sometime soon.
Thank you. We all hopefully will all be there again.
Yes. Stay well. Bye-bye. Bye all.